Welcome to International Dairy Week's podcast, Around the Barn. We are so excited to be back for season 2. Hello, I'm your host, Casey Treloar, and this is the online space where those in the Australian dairy industry can connect with each other, as well as those right around the world in the lead up to Australia's premier dairy show in January. Through video and audio, this is the exclusive one-stop shop where you can catch up with our exhibitors, judges, sponsors and fans from across the globe to talk all things cows, technology and showing down under.
Well, we're very pleased today to welcome our special guest to Around the Barn, Mr. Tim Abbott. Tim, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you. It's great to be with you. I'm excited to be with the IDW team and talking about what's going on in the United States.
So, Tim, we've the IDW team just got back from World Dairy Expo, and obviously, you know, for people that hadn't attended the show, there was record numbers. The show was incredible. It was amazing, the atmosphere at the show, and obviously you had some outstanding success with the Supreme Champion Footloose. Maybe take us through her story for the people that may not know.
Great. Well, thanks, Declan. We surely, you know, it never gets old to have champion at World Dairy Expo. This is our official second one, and we owned Barbara right up until the close to the time that she was champion. So we've been part of several, but it never gets old. So Footloose is a cow that we purchased with our good friends Mike and Julie Duckett at Duckett Holsteins about a year and a half ago. Bred by Oakfield Corners, the lambs over in New York. And Sharon and I were out one day and went and saw this cow, tried to get her for a sale. Couldn't get her for the sale, so we chose to buy her. So at that point, Sharon and I and Mike and Julie Duckett owned the cow. Then we did put her through a sale and chose to keep half of her with our partners from California, Vieira Dairy, who Declan, you would probably have talked about before with their great success in jerseys, but this is one of their first ventures into a top-end Holstein.
And we had a pretty exciting news in the last week, Tim, about a classification score.
Yeah, luckily, Footloose was classified before World Dairy Expo, and of course, in the United States, it takes a committee to approve them when they get put up for high scores. So the committee came on Monday and approved Footloose at her maximum score for the number of calves she's had, which is 96. They made her a couple of my favorite traits. Her dairy strength, I believe, is 100 and her udder is 98. So about as perfect in my two most important categories as we can get.
And pedigree, Tim, just run us through Footloose's pedigree, because she has a pretty special pedigree, doesn't she?
Yeah, what made this really nice, Declan, for many of us, her pedigree runs deep with a lot of ties to both my career through her grandmother's sire, Roy, and also a herd in Virginia I worked with a lot. So Footloose comes directly from Oakfield Corners, sired by Solomon, and her dam was a 94-point cow sired by Braxton. That was a regional show winner for Oakfield Corners, a big, beautiful cow, did all the things Braxton really does. Beautiful cow, not a national show winner, but a regional show winner. And then, of course, the next dam back is Harview Roy Frosty, who two different times wore the same banner that her granddaughter did at World Dairy Expo. Heck, I'm a pretty big historian of the business, and I can't tell you that close a lineage before that's ever worn the crown back to back, as closely as these two cows. So, and Frosty was 97 and also came from a beautiful cow family at Harview in Virginia. And I think anybody that really studies breeders in the States would have Harview as one of the great breeding herds in the country.
Tim, tell us about Footloose herself. Is she a cow that loves showing, a cow that, just gets herself there, or does she take a bit of work to get there? And what's she like at home in the barn as well?
Yeah, great question, Casey. That's my favorite part, and I wish Mike Duckett were part of this because he takes care of her day to day. But one of the neat things about her is there's cows that are I say they're like great racehorses. When the great racehorse gets on the track, she wants to win, right? Or he wants to win, and I really believe Footloose is like Frosty. When she comes into that ring, She just commands attention. She loves to be shown. She loves the attention. She loves the limelight. And interestingly, David Diamond, who was the handler or the leader of Frosty back in 2009, 2010, that range, David also led Footloose for us at Expo. So he led Frosty to the championship. A decade later, he leads her granddaughter into the championship. And an interesting fact there, David had the same boots that he wore showing Frosty that he wore for Footloose. And I told him never to get rid of those boots in case we needed another cow.
And anyone that knows David knows that he can afford boots, right?
well, and he certainly wouldn't wear dirty boots. We do know that. Back to Footloose real quick to finish your question, Casey. The neat part of the cow is nothing bothers her. You put milk in her udder, you put feed in her belly. The day after we finally got done at Supreme, I think we milked 115 or so pounds of milk out of the cow, standing there chewing her cud, just never an issue. She laid there through the party and took it all in and chewed her cud we did a big photo shoot with her the next morning, and she looked every bit as brilliant then as she did. So I'd call her a real easy keeper.
Tim, moving on to a cow that's been on everyone's lips probably the last year or so, and did pretty well herself at Expo. Take us through the Big Doc cow.
Yeah, it was an exciting Expo for us because of Footloose and Doc and a couple other cows we had there. But Doc had really her first outing at Expo. She was at Expo last year as a 3-year-old. She got sick the day before the show and never made it to the ring. So this was the first time Doc had ever really hit the ring. So we were thrilled. She ended up third in what I consider the greatest class at Expo this year, the 4-year-old class. And her new photos, her presence in the ring kind of put some new energy into what's going on with Doc. So we're extremely pleased with what her outcome was as well.
And I guess ultimately, Tim, for those that don't know, take us through Doc's story and why she's been put on the map.
Yeah, and it's a long story, but it's an exciting story, Casey. This spring, Doc went through the Ducats sale, and myself and my wife Sharon, along with a couple other partners, AOT Holsteins in New York and King's Ransom Holsteins, along with Ducats, all joined forces to buy this cow at a record U.S. price of nearly $2 million. And that obviously comes under a lot of scrutiny, comes under scrutiny with our bankers and with our spouses and with the industry, because a lot of people wonder how. But along with her that day, we got her and 40 pregnancies. And those 40 pregnancies, I think we've got 10 of those bulls on the ground and tested already. I think we're at about 70% of those bulls are already committed to AI and have been genomic tested and will go. So she's a prolific genomic producer. She's making beautiful daughters, and we believe Doc can absolutely change the breed.
Now, Tim, someone told me a story, and maybe you can clarify this, but was there something like 5 bidders over $1 million on that cow?
Yeah, Declan, I got to read the pedigree, obviously, at the sale because my partner Chris Hill and I ran the sale, and I've never seen anything like it. There were literally either 5 or 6 entities that all raised their hand at over $1 million, and it was really rewarding because we'd done a lot of promotion on the cow, and we believed if we sold the cow honestly, Ducats made no bones about it. They were the owners of the cow and they wanted to stay in. The only way I got them to let her go through the sale was making it public that they wanted to stay in. And I will guarantee you the other partners have written a good 2-way check for the rest of the cow. So it was no small feat to pull it off, but boy, we're thrilled. We're thrilled with what's gone on so far.
Do you think we'll see a cow? Is there a potential cow coming through at all? Do you think that could have a similar influence to the Doc, or is she sort of the big timer that's going to, have the industry talking about her for the next 10 years?
Well, I hope if she does, Casey, I can find her before everyone else. But, I think I think today there's potential for that cow to happen more than ever. Certainly the Caught Your Eye cow that the group owns, she's got some tremendous influence going, and that cow gets better every year. Has won Madison 2 years in a row, and so many great pedigreed ones coming on. But we really believe, Doc, her transmitting ability for tight milk and overall health traits, and out of a show cow is unmatched. And what I love about her, she's 13 generations back to the cow that Frank Reagan bought one day, a cow called Mark Della that went on to be 95, the Dam of Durham, the Dam of Dundee, the Dam of Damien, all that. So it just gets, or Grand Dam of Damien, it just gets better.
Now, Tim, let's back to World Dairy Expo. You also had some success in the Junior Heifer Show. Just run us through a little cow called Tata.
Yeah, it was one of those years, Declan, where it all kind of came together. In September, we had come across this beautiful heifer in New York that goes back to Toby, the great cow that Ernie Kiefner owned, and has a beautiful pedigree. And she is a summer yearling, and Chris and Jen Hill and Sharon and I purchased this heifer at the New York State Show. I think it was early September. And we just thought this heifer, the day we bought her, we said she has that middle of the ring presence. She had that huge long neck and beautiful sweeping rib, and just had a tremendous presence about her. And so, so we bought her with the Hills. They did a great job caring for her, and she ended up being junior champion of the Red Show, and then came back for Supreme and was runner-up Supreme within a heartbeat of a great Holstein. So it was one of those weeks for us, Declan.
And some exciting news with Tata as well, Tim. I understand that maybe she might have a new owner in the next couple of months.
Yeah, you're exactly right. She will have a new owner. Chris and Jen and Sharon and I run a sales series in Nashville called the Music City Celebration. And we beg people for their best consignments. And we tell people it's the best place to sell them in the States. And so we have to put our money where our mouth is. And so Tata's is consigned to the Music City Celebration in December in Nashville. So we're excited. The exciting part of her, she's pregnant. She's going to calve at 1 year and 9 months. So she'll calve really young, and she'll be ready for the spring shows. She's going to sell carrying a heifer calf. So, and we just brought her to the IVF center this week, and she did have oocytes. So we'll keep our fingers crossed we can make a few babies before we lose her.
Tim, take us through the success of some of those sales. I mean, your Nashville sale and sort of the outcomes and results that have come, since animals have gone through that sale ring. Yeah,
the Nashville sale, Chris and I started it. This is our 6th one. And so, we came up with the concept. Nashville's a great city and a lot of fun. And Chris and I wondered if we could get everybody to come and have a celebration type sale, kind of a destination sale. And the city of Nashville has just welcomed us. So we do the sale all with cattle on video. We do it at one of the local country music establishments, bar owned by Alan Jackson. And actually we've gotten to be friends with Alan Jackson's manager there. So we've got great connection with the community there in Nashville. So what we do is we bring in 65, 70 lots from all breeds. And we've just had numerous cows and heifers go through the sale. I don't even want to start mentioning them because I'll forget the most important. But it's been a huge success. And maybe most importantly, guys, it brings together people in a very festive atmosphere. Nobody's competing against each other. Everybody's there for one reason. We're almost to the holiday season. And now we've added a fun thing. We do the All-American Holstein announcements one evening in Nashville. And so it's made a really festive weekend. We've got great friends that are musicians there. So we bring in great bands to play for, private shows for our group. And it's a fun event. We really would love to. I know it's getting close to International Dairy Week, but you guys ought to come to Nashville sometime and join us at our sale.
Now, Tim, I know you said you won't mention any, there's been so many success stories out of the Nashville sale, but I think it's important. I was having a conversation just yesterday with Diane Borber, And Diane's obviously a huge supporter in the industry. And she was saying how she purchased a first choice from Maple, Unstoppable Maple, at the Nashville sale for $14,000. So, I think it's important for our listeners to know, this sale has so much to offer on so many different levels. And I think that's, that choice now it's doubled, tripled in value, so it's certainly a sale that has something for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny. I recently had a similar conversation with Kevin Dobriner, reminding me of how little that the Maple choice brought last year. But so thanks for bringing that up, Declan. But in all seriousness, we do sometimes get those young cows that, she was such an exciting young cow, but who would have dreamt that at the end of the day, she was one of the best two Holstein cows in captivity this fall, and yep. her value has gone up. So like you said, Diane's been a great supporter of our sale. And the nice part is, yes, we get high prices. Yes, they command huge attention, but again, back to my first comment on the good ones, you really never pay too much for. And certainly Diane's
yep.
proven that. So we've got a full sister to Maple selling. I'm still working on another daughter of Maple. It's not going perfectly yet, but I'm hoping I can get the job done.
Now, Tim, I want to shift our attention to Down Under. Obviously, this podcast is, it's the heart of International Dairy Week. You've made your way to the country a few times. Take us through some of your trips, your memories, who you met along the way.
And is there a time limit on this? I'd like to tell you about every time I've been to your great country. I just had a conversation with a judge about where to judge around the world, and I said, if you ever get the chance to go or judge or be involved with International Dairy Week, go. So, my work in Australia started with ABS 30 years ago. My first trip to Australia probably would have been 25 years ago, and I met such great people. Probably leading the way. Certainly. Brian Leslie and Phil Malcolm and Graham Gillen, but they got me hooked up with Keith and Pat Kuhn at Bushley. I made a special trip down there and read pedigrees, one of the great honors of my life at one of the Bushley sales. I got to come and read pedigrees at a top brass sale many, many years ago in Australia. And then I've been there to judge at Dairy Week, I believe 3 times, and been, multiple other times. So, some of my greatest friends in the world are in Australia. I think it's one of the most incredible cow populations, and the passion. If you break down who's most passionate about breeding cows, I'd put you Australians at the top of the list. So I love Dairy Week. I think it's a very, very well run event, and I'd frankly rather go to Dairy Week than almost anywhere else in the world.
Well, we love to hear that, Tim, and hopefully we can see you back down under sometime soon. We are running our first international tour this year, so where Stacey was over at World Dairy Expo promoting the International Dairy Week Tour. So hopefully we can get some people from North America and to jump on that tour as well. So, but hopefully we can see you and Sharon down under soon. We thank you for your time on the podcast. Thanks for jumping on, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on board. And to hear the stories about the cows and certainly your success at World Dairy Expo. So thanks so much, Tim, for joining us.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. Nothing I like more than connecting with my friends in Australia. And again, hats off to you, Declan and Casey, and Stacey as well for all your efforts. And thanks for coming over to World Dairy Expo. I'll do my best to get some of our people across to your great event. So good luck with it.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Tim.
Well, we're very excited for this next episode of Around the Barn. We have none other than Darren Fletcher, a sales manager from Total Livestock Genetics. Darren, welcome to the podcast. Take us through, first of all, a bit about your role and what you do with TLG.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's a great opportunity to introduce people to TLG. So TLG is a bull collection facility located in the Western Districts of Victoria. So we're a EU qualified. I think we're the only one in Australia. So you want to be able to export overseas, we're the facility that you come to for that. On top of that, we also have you know, we have our own team of bulls that we market into the Australian dairy industry. So, you know, we're here for the Australian farmers.
Now, Darren, tell me a little bit about that. We're talking about Australian genetics, and obviously one thing that, you know, I've been a big believer in the last few years is, you know, Australian genetics for Australian farmers, but TLG having the ability to produce fresh sex semen and obviously conventional semen in this country. Let's just run through a little bit about that and the advantages maybe TLG have over some other companies in that front.
Yeah, well, obviously, a lot of the companies that market into Australia are based overseas, so they don't have that opportunity with the fresh semen. With our bulls standing in Australia at our facilities at Glen Ormiston and Camperdown, we've got that opportunity both in fresh sexed and fresh conventional. Yeah, it's a great product. Certainly see some higher conception rates through using the fresh product, especially into cows. So, you know, it gives us a little bit of an edge over some of the other companies.
Darren, take us through behind the scenes a bit about the international success story for TLG, Morand.
Yeah, look, I would like to say that Morand was a bull that I had an opportunity to market in Australia, but it was a little bit before my time. You know, from what I can gather, there was over 120,000 units of that bull that were produced and sold by TLG. You know, he was what we class as a generational bull. You know, you don't see too many of these bulls come along. You know, at his peak, he was the highest type and udder rated polled bull in the world. Still has some really high numbers now, and you know, he's had daughters that have won shows and been high production, high type animals in basically every continent in the world. So, you know, he was definitely a bull that put TLG on the map.
No, 100%. And I can tell you one thing, Darren, I was traveling farms a couple of years ago and I was at a farm down in the Western Districts and a guy was dehorning calves and he said to me, Declan, you know who my favourite bull is? And I said, no, I don't. Who is it? And he said, Morand, because he's a homozygous pole bull and I don't have to dehorn him, you know? So, you know, it's one thing that bull had ticked a lot of boxes, but the homozygous pole was very attractive to a lot of farmers, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. He was you know, the first of those homozygous polled bulls that was, you know, really marketable. You know, the polled bulls they started a little bit inferior to your normal Holstein, I guess you would say, but you know, he was the first one that came along that really stood out and shone. You know, I still get emails and phone calls now from people that are chasing Morand semen. So it's yeah, he was a very, very good bull for TLG, that's for sure.
And on that, Darren, also, you know, I guess leading into genomic testing, I mean, one thing, I've been a big believer of genomic testing you know, around the world. And, you know, I think it was a great technology and really genomic testing was, you know, it's a global thing now, you know, because a bull like Morand is genomically tested in this country in Australia, has global appeal. So let's sort of run through TLG and some of the genomic testing services that you guys provide and how important that can be to farmers in this country.
Yeah, well, genomic testing is, you know, genomics is the way forward for the dairy industry. You know, it's getting bigger and bigger all of the time. So it's a tool that farmers can use to fast track their herds. You know, you don't want to keep that bottom end of your herd. You don't want to be breeding from them, and genomics really helps us to weed out the cattle that we don't want to be breeding from. You know, we have the ability with our partnership through Neogen to be able to offer genomic testing on the Australian system, the BPI, or, you know, the US system. So, you know, people can get the numbers that they need to be able to, you know, correctly mate, or, you know, whether they're going to export heifers or however they want to tackle it. But the numbers are there and the numbers don't lie. So,
Darren, obviously another huge part of the business is the idea that private farmers can come in with their own bulls and the ability then to be able to, you know, potentially send that product anywhere in the country, in the world. Take us through, you know, bull collection for the private customer as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Ruth and the team at Camperdown, they're processing in excess of 100,000 units a month there. So, the farmer can have his bull brought on centre. He might have a market into Europe or the US or wherever it may be. Penny in export, she has all of the protocols that these bulls need to tick off, and they can collect and it can be sent to wherever they need it to go. So yeah, it's certainly a great facility in that regards, and the team there, they all know their roles and they execute it, and it makes it a huge advantage for farmers that want to get semen overseas.
And Darren, from a farmer perspective, I mean, for those that might be considering it, take us through some of the benefits of doing that private semen collection and maybe some of the cost benefits that come with that.
Yeah, so it's really about, I guess I look at it from the perspective that it opens new markets to farmers. So you've got a bull that's marketable into the US or something like that. It's about minimising risk in your business. So if you can export semen and it's another income stream to another market, that's a big benefit to your business. So we've got to look at things that it's not just Australia, it's not just our only market. We can get semen to anywhere in the world. So yeah, it certainly opens options for those that have got some high-end bulls that they might want to market.
And we just got back from World Dairy Expo, the International Dairy Week team, Stacey, Brad, and myself, and certainly one question that we continually got asked, and the conversations we kept having was, there's a big spotlight on genetics here in Australia. So there's been a lot of Jersey bulls that are now exported to the US and the North American market, to the European market, South Africa, for example. So, there is a spotlight on Australian genetics right now, and people don't really understand that. Obviously, we need a company like TLG to be actually able to produce it and to export it. So, that is one really important thing, isn't it, Darren?
Yeah, that's right. We're basically the one-stop shop in that regard. We collect it. We can put it into the tanks. It can be exported. It can, we even have connections with people that can market the semen overseas. So, if you need some help in that regard, we can point you in the right direction. So, we have all of the connections and all of the tools that are needed to make it a success. So.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, Darren, is, the ability then to find the right markets or find the right marketers, around the world.
Yeah.
So how do people get a start on that? They've genomically tested a bull, they've realised there might be a market for it. Do they go through you, or could they try and contact companies themselves?
Yeah, they can do it either way. There's no worries, that whatever works for them. So yeah, your genomic test, they might find that they've got a bull. We currently have a Jersey bull that's came up really high on the US system, and we're in the process of marketing into Canada and the US. And that's no different to what your average farmer would do. He would genomically test and find that this bull's really high. So he then has the opportunity to talk to someone to market him in the US. They can go through those processes. We can either put them in touch with somebody and go from there.
Darren, obviously we've gone into detail about the opportunities for semen collection and semen export. Obviously, another big part of the program there is embryo collection and embryo export too. Take us through that side of the business as well.
Yeah, so it's a part of the business that offers farmers the ability to, fast track their herds with ET collections, especially. I think on average we're probably doing about 10 to 20 different heifers a week will be flushed and put into recip cows. That's over a 5 or 6 week period. So it's certainly a service that we offer that definitely benefits the farmer. It also benefits us because it gives us the opportunity to work with some high merit cows and heifers that we may want to try and breed some bulls out of. So, there's a bit of a symbiotic relationship there with the farmers and us in regards to doing these flushes. So.
Now, Darren, tell us, how do people get in touch with TLG and certainly if they're interested in some of your services?
Yeah, so if you're interested in any of the services, obviously my main role there is around the semen sales side of things. So, get in touch with me in regards to that. Any of the other services, just get in touch with the TLG team, and Jess and generally answers the phone there, or Ruth and the team. They'll help you out with all the info that you need.
Fantastic. Well, Darren, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast and giving us a real insight into really an Australian, success story behind the scenes of TLG and what they're able to offer for farmers and also, bull distributors as well. It's been an interesting insight, and pleasure to have you on board.
No, thanks for having me, guys, and looking forward to Dairy Week. So keep up the good work.
Thanks, Darren. Really appreciate it.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks for joining us for today's episode of Around the Barn. We hope you enjoyed hearing from each of our guests. If you like what we're talking about, make sure you hit the share button. That's all we've got time for. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.